Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're delighted to see such a strong turnout for this really interesting topic. My name is Darragh Reynolds from CommSec, and you're very welcome to our session, Beyond Pen Testing, Why Breach and Attack Simulation is the Future of Security Validation. So in the marketing blurb that we used the John Lennon quote, "Have you seen the news today? Oh boy." And that's exactly what we see on a day in, day out basis. Another breach, another attack. And it's another reminder that the threat landscape, as much as we have all these great tools, it keeps evolving and keeps moving forward and eluding some of these tools. So that's really why we're here today. Penetration testing, as we know, remains essential. It's one of our core services that we offer here in CommSec, but it only gives a snapshot in time. So most organizations want more, and they want to know that the defenses are working as well as those tools are working as they should. So that's exactly what we're here today to discuss. How breach and attack simulation, or BAS, gives security teams continuous real-time insights and control. And it also, we're going to be looking at how it strengthens their compliance initiatives, particularly with NIS2 coming down the tracks, ISO 27001, which is still very important, and DORA that came in last year. So very pleased to be joined by Markus. So Markus, you want to unmute and say hello?
Yes. Hello, welcome everybody, and thank you for having me. Big thanks to the CommSec team. Yes, I'm Markus Vervier. I'm coming from pen testing, and I'm now head of the persistent security and the Nemesis platform that we develop. And exactly when you said yesterday's news, no, you said today's news, but actually yesterday's news. It's very interesting, and that kind of shaped my presentation as well. Like you will see in a bit, if you've seen anything about these worm attacks, so you know what I mean.
Very up to date. That's great. And Markus, just for the people watching at home or in work, what got you into cybersecurity in the first place?
I think exploration, right? So that basically you, I was when I was very young, I was always interested in technology, but I was also interested in like learning new things. And I think that was one of the best things to do was trying to break things in a positive way. Yeah? So that's kind of inspired me, and also of course all this, let's say, hacking,
hack the box activities.
Interesting things. Yeah.
Yeah, great. No, that's a good story. So that's great. And we'll be having a look at, as I said, you're a co-founder of Persistent Security, and Nemesis is the platform that you have. So we'll be having a look at that later in the session. So we'll start now with quick introductions, and we'll have a couple of poll questions for you for the audience to get involved with, and then we'll have the main content in the middle, and then we'll have some questions at the end. So please feel free to drop your questions into the chat box, and we've actually received a couple by email as well, and a couple of our own pen testers have some questions as well. So we'll have a couple of questions at the end. So before we move over to Markus, just who we are, just a quick overview of CommSec. So we're a specialist ICT security partner, 100% focused on cybersecurity, particularly with GRC and compliance, very popular services at the moment. The core of our services revolve around a 24/7 managed SOC center that we have in our offices in Dublin. We're an Irish company, and our team is based here in Dublin. As I said, our standards include ISO 27001, Cyber Essentials, and we align clients to NIS2 and DORA. And most of our clients are Irish-based, or UK, a couple in the EU and Asia, and some in North America as well. But our focus is really on our domestic market. And our industries include software, financial, and that includes fintech, logistics, public bodies, among others. And we have 4 pillars that we offer our services through. So I've mentioned SOC already. We've touched on security testing. So we do penetration testing, we do vulnerability management as well. And we're evolving into Microsoft 365 testing and SaaS testing as well, which is a big part of our business. And then we offer professional services around CISO as a service, DPO as a service, and we run assessments to all the international frameworks and regulations. So you can get gap analysis when you need them. And solutions. So we work with people like companies like Persistent Security and others to deliver world-class cybersecurity solutions. And here are some of our clients that we work with. You'll recognize some of these big names like Primeline, Irish Times, Tech Enable, Acre Security, SETU, Southeastern University Technology College. Poll time. So let's run this poll. Just bear with me 1 second while I load this poll up. So we've got 3 questions coming in the poll. So let's launch the first one. How confident are you that your current security controls would detect a real-time attack today? A couple of options there. So we'll move quickly through this. And we will launch the second of our third question. So how often do you validate your security defenses? So this is a really interesting. I'm really interested to see the answer on this one. Things are evolving out there. So let's see what happens. Continuously is obviously very much of interest with this webinar. And our last poll question is, what is your biggest challenge right now? Is it keeping up with the new threats in the evolving landscape, providing compliance to international frameworks and regulations, lack of visibility into blind spots? I'm sure Markus has some insights to share around that. Limited time resources, as always, and knowing if tools actually work. So that's where the validation comes in. So interesting to know what your answers are to that. So I think we've all answered those questions. Let's move on. And Markus, I will pass over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, let me share my screen and quickly go over it. Okay, I hope you can all see my slides. Yeah. Okay. So yes, not hacked yet, or are you already hacked? So yeah, just I introduced myself already. I'm a technical person, so I've been running penetration testing teams, spawned like a penetration testing company in 2015, went on the journey with Nemesis for automation and security, and in 2022, I had my share of security work, finding vulnerabilities, mostly manual work, yeah, then also some automation with fuzzing. And I'm mostly around the technical security conferences. That's where you will find me. And yeah, very happy to work together with CommSec in that role as head of these 2 companies. And yeah, what's today's agenda? It's actually some kind of reality check, right? In the past, and everybody was trying to sell you, let's say, some illusion of we can prevent any kind of cyber attacks. But I mean, any kind of CISO that runs a non-trivial operation or any type of company owner will know that there's no 100% security, and any business will likely be breached at some point. I mean, it's a pretty bleak thing to say, but it's just like that. It's just not if, but when and how. So what do we do about this? Yeah? And in a nutshell, I mean, you need to be proactive. And I mean, CommSec already mentioned, right? You run pen testing and you want to improve. So you want to be proactive and you want to actually check if what you think is defending you is actually working. Yeah, we are a team located in Belgium, the company, where we are from all over Europe, and we're continuous security validation platform since 2024, and we want to prove your security actually works. And what does that actually mean? That means you need to be proactive and you need to measure your security. But what is the state of security today on the market? Basically, the state of security today looks like this. Something gets hacked, and there's a lot of good companies that are actually doing good work in detecting these attacks. But what happens then is that if you see the news yesterday, there was a big supply chain breach in NPM. A few of you will probably have that, and maybe all of you in your supply chain if you run a company, even if you don't run an IT company. And the hackers basically deployed a malware that was spreading over GitHub and automatically compromising various environments, right? And that actually hit Zapier, Postman, Posttalk, like big names in tools and tooling and platforms, and their GitHub accounts and everything had been compromised. So what's the conclusion of that? It's kind of always the same. Okay, you need to check, are you affected? And what is affected? And then, okay, you should immediately rotate all secrets and monitor your environment. Okay, that's not as easy as it sounds, right? I mean, rotate all your secrets. If you have a sizable employees number, then that will be a lot of work. And what are you, do you actually know how to monitor, right? Even if you have a SOC, the SOC also needs to know how to monitor and for what. And you only know if it works when something happens. So it's a bit like panic. Everybody can be hacked. So please clean up now when it happens. And the question is, yesterday's attack was big in the news, but did it happen before? Yes, it did. I mean, things are hacked all the time here. 4 years ago, NPM packages are stealing Discord tokens. Yeah, 69 days ago, yeah, that was there was basically the version 1 of the worm from yesterday, which was a bit smaller, but then basically the same thing happened again with 44,000 malicious packages on GitHub, and then yesterday the same thing again. So again and again. How do these attacks actually change? If you look at that, version 1 from September, in fact, backsourced NPM packages. Yeah, Node Package Manager, one of the most widely used ecosystems for packages, and Node.js, like a lot of developers are using that. It's everywhere. Okay, version 2, infection via backdoored NPM packages. Basically the same. What does it do? It abuses GitHub Actions. These are like automations on GitHub. So it uses the same thing to kind of execute on your environment. It steals secrets, and then it injects itself into other packages, and then basically we are back to step 1. And the difference is that the version 2 is more sophisticated and more comprehensive, but it is not really doing too much new in the sense of how generally these attacks work. So to sum it up, it's a bit more of the same. And how to stay safe against that? I mean, you can try to mitigate all of this, but if you know how a worm works by automatically replicating itself. Yeah. If you slow down at replications, for example, if you say, I'm not installing any updates that are, let's say, not older than 27 hours, there's technical means to prevent that, and then the worm won't hit you, because the worm in 27 hours, the worm was detected. Yeah, and the worm needs to be fast. So that's a very simple measure to keep you safe. And now, how many of these attacks here were actual vulnerabilities? Maybe that one, but actually not really vulnerabilities. Yeah, that was also a misconfiguration. So these attacks exploit overly broad permissions, misconfigurations, bad OPSEC, and lack of basic security controls. So The reality is that these cyber attacks usually don't use sophisticated exploits, and that's just the reality of many of these breaches. And it's a kind of a never-ending cycle. It's a multi-billion-dollar business, multi-billion-dollar for attackers, but also for companies that basically sell solutions that basically help you find the same problems over and over again. And that's not sustainable. So the hackers and the bad solutions, they feed on your despair and your problems. Now, we want to give you, of course, a way out, a light at the end of the tunnel. And we want to get you out of the reactive mode back to the proactive mode. Yeah. So dust and vault scanning is very important as housekeeping, but it is not, let's say, enough. And that's basically where you get to the next level. You need quality pen tests that are not just vulnerability scans, but that basically are challenging your company and your environment in a way that they also find novel attacks and that they explore your attack surface deeply. But the problem is these pen tests, which are very valuable, you cannot run them every day. And there's also not enough talent on the market that can do that every day, even if you had the money. Yeah. But you need to be proactive. So what if you can experience the breach without being breached? What does that mean? That means breach and attack simulation. And what we actually want to do is we want to systematically test your security controls. Basically, we want to focus on the solutions. Yeah, you have a firewall. What should it filter? You have a EDR. What should it actually achieve? Yeah, malware being detected and being prevented from being executed. Yeah, you have some data exfiltration protections, that is exactly what we simulate with breach and attack simulation. So it fills kind of the gap between high quality pen testing and also, let's say, the housekeeping. It is basically a proactive method to say, like, okay, this is how an attack works. This is basically the defenses you have against that. Yeah. And so the defenses should be able to also catch the next iteration. Yeah. So not just finding ever more vulnerabilities, but actually putting in defenses in place that work and that prevent these vulnerabilities from being exploited or existing. And we do that in your environment. So we deploy some lightweight agents, and I can show you a bit around quickly in your environment, and they execute the real techniques, but in a very controlled and safe way in a staging environment, but even in a production environment. And then basically you can check if your security controls actually detect that, if they prevent that. And if there's any gaps, you know exactly where to improve. So it's continuous validation that can be run every day, every hour. Okay, so I just want to go with you to the attack from yesterday. The Shai Hulud attack. And that actually, there's a really good, let's say, blog post or a write-up from and they basically checked what did this thing actually do. Yeah. And then if you look at this here, then you can see, okay, this is like a nice picture of like how the attack takes place. Yeah, the attacker compromises some developer. It steals all the passwords, all the access tokens, all the secrets, and it actually then injects itself into the systems that a developer has access to, and then it actually publishes the backdoor again under the name of the developer. And that's actually pretty mean. It's pretty bad. So all these steps are what we call an attack chain. And the thing is that in a pen test, you would run it similarly, just that you cannot do that every day. And also, a lot of these actions, once the attacker has impersonated the developer, are kind of very legitimate actions, right? Because developers are supposed to publish packages. They're supposed to work with secrets, yeah, and commit code and do all these things. But the key is visibility. And in case of an attack, limiting, for example, the developer to only do what they need for their actual work and not more. So now these attacks are getting analyzed, and there's a lot of companies like Wiz or Aikido or also consultants at CommSec, and that can help you if there was an attack. And the interesting thing is they also publish, let's say, what packages were compromised and also what techniques, let's say, were being used by that worm. So what exactly did it do on a technical level here? Cloud activity, payload, what did it do, and so forth. And all of this we can take and we put basically into a simulation. Yes, and the simulations, they can look like, for example, they can look like this. So we have, for example, I'm just sharing, this is the Nemesis dashboard. I'm just basically sharing. So I've asked actually our AI agents and basically, okay, what kind of let's say attacks, what kind of techniques does this attack use? And then it basically can come up with, say, like, okay, simulate installation of compromised npm package. And that's that. You have to have some technical knowledge, but if you don't, it's basically simulating exactly the commands that the hackers would use. And it can help you set that up. And once you have that, these are all the steps that the hackers would take. We have categorized that also in the Mitra attack map, which is a very good metric to categorize these attacks. And at the end, you can create a scenario. And we already have a lot of these scenarios that basically form some attack chains, for example, of a ransomware, of the one from yesterday, something that exfiltrates data from your environment. And we can actually say, like, okay, these are the steps that are taken. And behind these steps are all the commands, all the technical things that are executed. And I can actually test if this works on a Windows machine, on a Linux machine, on the cloud. And when I do that, then basically I can also get the results and can look at the results. I'm going to share some other results. Just a second. So, for example, here we have run something that is a bit like a pen test. And we do that in what we call assessments. And for example, one of the assessments, let me see, was exfiltrating all the hashes and all the passwords from the domain controller. And yeah, you can look at these. That's basically the end result. And if that works, Nemesis will tell you, okay, this was not prevented, this was a successful attack. And also it will tell you, for example, for the detection teams, like what exactly were the commands, when was it executed, and so forth. And now, for example, you ask your security provider, you have you install the latest patches, the attack stops working. Then, of course, Nemesis will also tell you that it was not, let's say, it was not successful. Yeah, I can actually check if, yeah, okay. Here we have an attack that failed. Yeah, and at the end, the authentication failed. So Nemesis then records this as prevented. Yeah, so you can get basically a gap analysis. Also, if you install a patch, if you make a change in your IT environment, is this actually then still 100% prevented or detected, or are you going down? Yeah, do you get more vulnerable to attacks? Yeah, and that basically from the attacks from yesterday, basically we can create a simulation that shows that in your environment, what would be implications of this attack. Yeah, all of this, of course, can be done in a compliance and ready documentation. So you can download a report in PDF or docx that will basically document exactly what was tried and if it worked or not. You can say like, okay, actually, last month we were at 0%. This month we are at 100%, and so you can actually here display the assessment results and display maybe to your board what were the improvements. Yeah. Okay. So this was a speed run. So what is the traditional approach? Yeah, the traditional approach is more like doing something in good faith, waiting for the breach. Yeah, even if you're on purpose or not, then you need to respond and clean up. Hope you did the right thing in cleaning up. Hope it doesn't happen again. Or wait for point in time assessments. They can tell you if at that day basically the attack still worked, but I mean changes happen all the time, so then you need something in between. And the Nemesis and the breach and attack simulation approach is to continuously do remediation testing, continuously simulate the recent attack. So if there was an attack a few hours ago, we provide you a simulation for that, and you can see if you're safe or not, and then basically fix the gaps before the attackers actually find them and try to exploit them, and then also give you the means to demonstrate that the work you do actually works, both for your let's say peace of mind, but also for the peace of mind of people that you need to show this to, and say like, okay, we're doing the right thing. So to sum it up, if you're not hacked yet, the question is, how do you actually know that? We want to basically give you a means to say like, okay, if you deploy a very lightweight agent in your environment, we can continuously challenge your environment, and we can basically monitor that your security controls actually work, they detect and they prevent, and that they actually identify also the gaps in the detection prevention, so you can continuously improve. You have a regression testing similar to software development, and you can actually measure your improvements over time. So continuous validation and measurable results. So don't wait to be the next headline. I think that's what I would like to close this with.
Markus, thanks very much for that. Very insightful indeed. Very insightful. So I think we'll move on to some Q&A. Let me just share the screen again. So just thinking back to the NPM attack yesterday, I think maybe the hackers learned from their first try and came back a second time with a more advanced version. 69 days later. That's that was the thought that came to mind there. Okay, so our first one is how closely do the simulated attacks replicate real techniques used by modern threat actors rather than purely MITRE mapped attack chains?
Yeah. So the thing is that the predefined. I think the question seems to be that if there's predefined attack chains in MITRE. However, of course, you can map kind of any attack chain to MITRE. Yeah? MITRE is a metric. So the simulated attacks are basically real attacks. Yeah. By default, of course, we designed any of the attack chains in a way that they are not making permanent changes on the system. Yeah. So, for example, they use some technique to create a new administrative account, but then they remove it again. Yeah. As I just shown, basically we're constantly monitoring current attacks. We now have already a simulation that we provided, for example, this morning to select customers that want to test their environment against this worm attack from yesterday. Yeah, they have not been hit, but they want to also make sure that it doesn't happen in version 3. Yeah, because the sad thing is that when you said like the attackers learned, so basically, yes, the attackers were pretty bad at coding, so they made some mistakes that made their first malware fail, kind of, or only compromised the 187, I think, packages. So now they improved, but essentially the attack type was the same. Yeah. So it's a bit sad that this still worked so well because with this easy change that I have shown, a lot of organizations and developers could have been saved, and that's measurable in Nemesis. And we're constantly updating these attack chains, and also you can do that in the platform. And we have also some AI support to generate attacks, test them in a lab environment, and then basically deploy them in a production environment. And that saves a lot of time while still not letting loose an AI pen testing agent on your production network. Yeah, because that it can be very impressive, but these agents are just hacking away. Yeah, so that's why
That's
we
interesting.
think this is a controllable way of doing proper security.
Thank you, Markus. The next one we have, do the reports translate technical results into understandable risk metrics for management teams? So we know management teams are much more involved these days as the compliance mandates. So the reporting element, are they easily readable reports?
Yes, the reports essentially, of course, are technical reports, meaning that, of course, they show the attack chains. They translate that into KPIs, for example, that you can say, like, for example, okay, if we do this change in the IT environment, that maybe you can put a number on it, money, that has a larger impact than another change, that is much more costly to do. Yeah. So that's the stuff that we want to basically show you. We also have proper explanations about in an attack chain, what is the role of a different attack. Yeah. So the technical team can directly report and can say, like, okay, we need to do this first because. You know? With the AI, you can also kind of connect, let's say, other information, your own, let's say, compliance requirements back to the technical controls that you implement. And that's also, and for example, say like, okay, this has a data protection impact. Yeah? So data exfiltration has a data protection impact. That's also very important for any governance.
Very good. And then the last one I have here is, hang on, there's one of them coming in there from Jeremiah in the chat. How does the solution interact with or complement vulnerability management programs?
Yeah. We're basically the missing piece in many of these programs because usually you have a lot of platforms that can manage vulnerabilities in terms of, I don't know, CVSS scores and then CVEs, but we can validate if these CVEs are actually present in the environment. Yeah, so it's, I think the new term is SOAR. So we are basically the execution and validation part of the vulnerabilities. So if you have a vulnerability, and in DORA, for example, you need to do a root cause analysis if it's severe. Then you can actually measure before and after. Say like, okay, now that vulnerability still is actually practically exploitable, and after you fixed it, it is not anymore. Yeah. So yeah, we are not, let's say, managing your CVEs, but we can, for example, interface and pull the data from these platforms. Or these platforms can also interface with Nemesis.
Very good. Another one has come in there from Jerry. Is Nemesis a tool that a good SOC should have in place or used directly by companies to test their own SOC? Question.
Yes. If you're lucky enough to have your own SOC, for sure. If you have an external SOC as well. So both the SOCs themselves as also the companies using SOCs are our customers. Because we can, for example, do SOC optimization such as we can generate from a SOC rule, we can generate an actual test to test exactly that rule in a certain environment. Yeah. And we can also, for example, if you have, let's say, rules in your SOC detection, we can, for example, do variations of the attack technique to see if your rules are actually too specific or not. So we can, it's detection engineering, I think is the word, and that's basically one of the prime use cases, and save you money on, let's say, SOC effectiveness.
So
well.
Test, adjust, and confirm. Really.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, I think that's the end of our questions.
In the chat there was a follow-up. I just want to respond to that because it's a very interesting one. Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
from Jeremiah. There's a very interesting. Yes, exactly. Because you can basically validate the real risk of a CVE like in an attack chain, and if it's really exploitable, and say like, okay, this is actually in our environment not a problem because there's a CVE that allows you to leak data, but the egress filtering is actually working. Yeah, then you can say like, okay, maybe that has a lower priority. Yeah, because the attackers can not really get the data out because everything's closed. So you can also show that mitigations are effective.
Super. Thanks. Thanks, Markus. Thanks, Jeremiah. So just one other one I had in the Q&A was how often do organizations run BAS in practice?
There's mainly two types. One is they run it kind of continuously. When they say have certain security controls, data loss prevention, maybe detection rules. They run that kind of continuously, meaning they run it maybe every hour or every day. Then there's the other ones that are more doing that for a certain purpose, such as change management or, for example, remediation testing or testing against specific threats. They usually run that, I would say, monthly or quarterly. And yeah, I think this offers also a good one for that one. So
great, thanks very much. Before we wrap up, we have an exclusive offer. So Nemesis have been very kind. So for organizations that would like to explore the Nemesis solution further, we're offering a free POC, proof of concept, to help you see that continuous simulation works in your own environment. It's a great opportunity to assess visibility, test detection, and understand the real value BAS can deliver. This is valued at €2,000, and we put a 2-week time limit on this this offer, so it's only really for people who are engaging with this webinar to get that. So if you're interested in the free POC, or you want a one-on-one follow-up discussion from this, you can email us or pop a message in the chat afterwards. Anyway, I'd like to thank everybody for their time today, and especially to Markus for his insights and showcasing the unique Nemesis BAS platform. So without anything else, I'll let everyone get back to their day. So thanks very much, and I'll see you on the next webinar. Thank you, Markus. Bye now.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.